All right, I'd like to call the meeting, the Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday, September 10th, 2019. Before we start the meeting, I ask if we all rise and salute the flag, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, very good. All right, let's jump right into scheduled items. So it's 7 p.m. So our first scheduled item is an entertainment license application for DBA Bobby's and Jack's Memphis Barbecue.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to waive the reading of the public hearing.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, very good. Okay. And just name for the record and just state your business.
Bob Ryan, Bobby and Jack's Memphis Barbecue. How are you? Thanks for
Very good.
listening to me tonight.
Hello.
Considering this. So we're applying for an entertainment license. We want to do, obviously, if you know the space, it's a big space. And we want to do maybe a 2 or 3 piece acoustic, maybe some country. We also want to do things like Family Feud. I don't know if anybody knows what that is, but a paint night or Family Feud, or even Meat Bingo. Might sound crazy, but generates a lot of interest today. Right now, about 8:30 at night, you know, who eats barbecue at 9 o'clock at night? It's real heavy, so not good. So we want to generate some of the sales later than that. Still closing at midnight. The hours aren't going to change at all. In my opinion, this is really nothing good going on after midnight. So, but to do appetizers and things like that, maybe a little bit lighter fare, still barbecue, but between 8:30 and midnight. So definitely nothing crazy. Just a little more, you know, a few more things to bring in some business.
Okay, very good. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the board for questions, and then what I'll do after the board is through, I'm going to open it up to the public audience, then we'll close the public meeting, and we'll make a decision. So, at this point, I'd like to open the board. Any questions?
I have a question.
Ms. Stronach?
Thank you for coming in. I have to say that it's one of my favorite places to eat, and I eat barbecue after 9 o'clock.
Good, thank you.
Probably not good, though. Anyway, so I am assuming that the reason you changed your application, because originally you had thought about this being Thursday to Sunday, and that was basically the acoustic, and then you're thinking the Family Feud, which is why you made it 7 days a week?
I didn't know if you needed an entertainment license for that, but I said, you know what, better safe than sorry. So if I need to have an entertainment license to do paint night or Family Feud or whatever it might be, it's better to get that, you know.
Okay, thank you. That was my question. I was going to ask, but I think you kind of answered it.
Any other questions from the board for Mr. Ryan?
I guess, Mr. Chair, really the only question is midnight, that you came up with that time frame because that's when
We close.
close your hours on
Yeah,
that.
the Sunday, kitchen closes at 9:30, bar at 10:30. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, same thing. Friday, kitchen closes 10:30, bar 11:30, same thing on Saturday. So, you know, it'll still be 11:30, but then, you know, if there's people in there, you're gonna go to midnight.
Wrap them up,
But,
yeah.
I don't wanna be in there late at night. I don't want my kid in there late at night, you know,
Yep.
it's really to generate to the midnight hour, you know,
Yep.
to 11:30. Because if you see it, you know, after 9 o'clock, it dies right out.
Yep.
I mean, there's just nobody in there.
Yeah. And the liquor, you're able to serve liquor up until midnight, is that
No, you serve it to 11:30.
till 11:30?
You know, typically like we do now, we serve it to 11:30, and then then the doors will be locked at 11:30, so whoever's in there's got to be out by 12.
Gotcha. I was just wondering the time frame up to midnight, so that was my only question.
Very good.
I don't have an issue with this. I think it's always good to try to help local businesses, so
Thank
I'm
you.
in favor of something like this, so.
Very good.
I just got one. So your entertainment, you plan on pretty much shutting it down at 11:30 to try to get them out of there by midnight. Is
Right.
that the attempt of what
Right.
you want?
I don't know how it's going to go, honestly. I just don't want to be I don't want to be our bar,
Yeah.
like the pubs. We're a restaurant that serves alcohol. We're not a bar that serves food. So I just want to, yes, it would be our goal to get everybody out by midnight. I know I don't want anybody in there after midnight.
I remember when you came in with your original application and the size of the property, and I was kind of surprised that you weren't looking for entertainment then, because of the size of the thing, just to do something small and acoustic, I think it's a great idea. It's not,
thank you.
it's to just do something,
In the beginning, it was... we
keep
had
keep
too many
people
other things
entertained, keep
going
them in the building, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but in the beginning, like I say, it was too many other things going on. I don't want to deal with entertainment, you know. I have an entertainment license at the pub, and I don't use it because I just don't want... My son really wants to do the neat bingo, the Family Feud, and all that paint night and stuff, and, you know, the kids are the future of the company, so when you do what they tell you, I'm good with that.
It's a very large building, so it's to keep it occupied. I
Yeah.
guess you have to do
Hey, we're
something,
doing
so.
well.
Yeah,
We're
good,
doing okay.
excellent.
Any other questions from the board?
I just have one.
Ms. Miller?
I noticed that you didn't check off dancing or television on here. Is that correct?
We already have televisions.
Oh, you already have the
behind
television.
bar.
That's why I was wondering about, okay.
Dancing? No.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay.
No, look at it, is somebody like Jarvis over at the pub going to get up and do a little jig? Yeah, probably, but,
I like Jarvis.
yeah, everybody likes Jarvis. But we got to have a dance floor, do I want people up there dancing? No, no, it's not big enough. It's a big space, don't get me wrong, but the space where you're going to put the music is right at the end of the bar, where there's now, where
Yep.
the tractor is.
Yep.
There's no room for dancing in there.
Sure.
And all that's going to do is create more drinking and craziness, and I'm good with that.
Have you spoken to any of your neighbors, your
About...
business neighbors
Yeah,
about?
well, my neighbors are really just the hardware store or push-cart cafe.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk all the time, so they know what's going on. We're going to give away push-carts, gift cards for Meat Bingo. We're going to give away the hardware store's gift cards for, Family Feud. We're going to give away the gym across the street's memberships. And so we all work together kind of in the whole, building each other's businesses.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, before I open up the public, Mr. Ryan, I can't say enough positive things about yourself and your family and what you do for the community, so I have no issues, and I wish you luck. So at this time, I'd like to open up to the public, directly to the abutters for any questions or concerns. All right, seeing none, at this time, I'd like to take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let's move right to what is the pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion to authorize the license for amplification at Bob and Jack's Memphis Barbecue Grill, Monday through Sunday, from 8 p.m. to midnight, for the use of live music and the amplification system.
Very good, I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second by Mr. Kratman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Thank you very much, per usual. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
All right, we're going to jump to 7:05, moving right along. We have a one-day liquor license from Mercury Brewing and Distribution Company. Do I have a representative?
Ms.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, this is being brought forward by the Public Events Committee for the town, so I am going to speak to this as the Board of Selectmen member. So this is to allow the Fall Festival beer in a closed area. This year, we've asked the Mercury Brewing Company to come in and do that event for us for a one-day liquor license, and that's what you have in front of you. As you can see, it's a pretty comprehensive packet with Corey's and their tip certification, and I think everything is in order.
Perfect. I was expecting that. Like you said, everything was in order, crossing the Ts and dotting the Is, so I have no issues. Any questions from Mr. Montori?
Just quickly, we received an updated insurance certificate today from Ipswich Brewery. There was some confusion when we were going through this with our council that the board's policy had a typo in it to only allow mine and Walt one day for nonprofits, but they can be given to profit organizations too. So we'll correct that typo in the license. But other than that, this is all set.
Perfect, exactly. So no amendments needed, no amendments needed for any quote-unquote change the verbiage to policy at this point.
We're good
Okay.
to go. It's just a typo.
Very good.
And I would like to say that they were willing to come to tonight's meeting and come here from Newburyport, but I thought that the paperwork was so well done that they didn't need to attend. Want to make sure people are aware that they were willing to come.
Perfect. Any questions from the board? What is the pleasure of the board?
I would like to make a motion that we approve the one-day liquor license for Mercury Brewing and Distillery Company for September 29th from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. to be at the Fall Festival.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second by Ms. Miller. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, let's check out the time here, moving right along. 7:15, I think we're right on the button. So the next scheduled item is a petition for underground conduit installation at Andover Street. This is also a public hearing, so do I have a motion to waive the public hearing?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have a representative for the petition for the underground conduit installation at Andover Street? Good evening, and thank you very much. And just name, and then we'll kind of just state why you're here, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Adam Heller with Sienna Engineering Group.
Haley Walker, also with Sienna.
We are an engineering firm primarily contracted with TC Systems, which is an affiliate of AT&T. So we're petitioning to install about 430 feet of underground PVC conduit for the placement of fiber optic cable. As you can see, the plan starts with the installation of a manhole. This project will continue into Lowell, a little bit further down Andover Street, and we've coordinated and actually gotten approval from Lowell just last month to do this, the other half of this project as well. We've also coordinated, as shown on the plans, with the DOT project that's going to be happening next spring. So we're planning to get in and do this before the DOT project. That way our facilities are in place and they can resurface and not worry about us digging up the new road.
Okay, very good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass it to the board. We're going to open up for public comment. I'll close the public meeting, and then we'll deliberate. So, any questions from the board? Ms. Stronach?
I do have a question, and so I see that you're doing this because you want to avoid coverage outages, and that is to the AT&T users, correct?
That's right. So it would be anyone serviced by AT&T, so not just cell phone service, but local businesses and, well, I guess, cell sites as well.
Okay, and then I noted that the town engineer, and I'm not sure, this might be a question for Mr. Montori, said that there may be additional permits that are needed. Are those in process? Are they a part of this? Is it something that we need to consider when we're making our decision tonight?
The other permits would go, the street opening permits, things like that from the DPW, that they'll do outside of this, this meeting. DPW's already been involved with this project. They've incorporated the work into the design changes for that intersection that will take place. They have no issues with what's being presented tonight, so those are the type of permits he's talking about.
Great, so this needs to come first.
This needs to come first, yes.
Thank you very much. I have no other questions, Mr. Chairman.
That was a good question. That's the one I had. So, how about additional questions from the board?
Yeah, time constraints on the installation of this. How long would you think it's going to take to have this?
So
Once you get all the permits and,
Conservatively, it shouldn't take more than 7 or 8 days
Okay.
of work.
so a couple of weeks max, okay. That's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Good. Any other questions from the board? Okay, seeing none, at this time, I'd like to open it up to the abutters. Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, what is the pleasure of the board?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the petition for underground conduit installation on Andover Street as proposed in tonight's packet.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second, Mr. Kratman, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, we have 3 minutes to 7:20, so with that being said, I'm going to try to get really cute and quick here. what I'd like to do is jump down to the town manager section. It's item number 11. It's the senior town council invoice for July 2019. Mr. Montori.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a senior town council invoice in the amount of $5,152.50, and I would recommend the board approve the invoice to be paid.
Any questions from the board?
Nope, I will make that motion to move the town council's invoice for $5,152.50 as recommended by the town manager.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Ms. Miller. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous, thank you. And why don't we bounce, Mr. Montori, we have, it's listed as number 12, it's Town Council invoice for July 16, 2019 through July 15, 2019.
August.
August.
Through August, yes. Mr. Chairman, thank you. This invoice is in the amount of $3,145, and I would recommend the board approve payment.
Any questions from the board? Seeing none, what's the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion to approve the town council invoice in the amount of $3,145 from July 16th, 2019 to August 15th, 2019.
Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Miller. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, almost perfect timing, so we took care of the two items under the town manager. Mr. Montori, we might bounce back to you. So at this time, what I'd like to do is jump back to the scheduled items for 7:20. What we have is a poll petition on the intersection of Salem Street and Main Street. Since I am a direct abutter, I did get a notice in the mail. What I like to do is just excuse myself now, and what I'm going to do is turn it over to Mr. Mark Kratman to do the deliberations for, again, this is for a poll petition on the intersection of Salem Street and Main Street. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just stay here and be quiet, I think, and I'll let Mr. Kratman take the show over.
Do we have anybody from National Grid to, on this petition? Come forward.
Mr. Vice Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to waive the notice of public hearing.
Second.
For a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
If you would, give us your name and exactly what you plan on doing with the poll.
Yes, my name is Paulo Sattler. I'm an engineer for National Grid. Mass DOT approached us because they have a project going on Salem Street, starting on Main Street towards South Street, where they need their road widening project they have there requires us to relocate some of our poles, and some of them have to move over 3 feet, and one pole, pole 6, needs to move across the street. So, per the Mass DOT, we're just designing our pole line there to meet the requirements for the roadway.
At this time, I'll open it up to the board if they have any questions on the petition.
I guess the question would be just moving the poles, does it affect any of the businesses around that area or any of the abutters in a negative way? I mean, it's a necessity to reconfigure that whole area, correct?
Yes.
That's what we're doing.
For National Grid-wise, there will be some police details there too. And I didn't see any businesses directly next to it. There was mostly a residential area, even though Main Street is nearby, has some businesses. I'm sure when Mass DOT does their portion of the work, there will be perhaps some road closures. I can't speak to them directly, but it's a smaller road right now, so there will be some disturbances. But when we do our work, typically we have a police officer present, and there's a two-way traffic. So I think we'll be okay with that.
So relocating the poles isn't going to negatively affect in a butter in a negative way where, you know what I mean? Like, so it's a positive move.
Yeah, it wouldn't.
You said pole 6 is moving.
Yeah,
across
pole
the
6
street.
is moving across the street. Where it is right now is kind of an empty lot. I wouldn't say 100% empty, but it's not in front of a person's house or a driveway. It wouldn't impede any type of,
Okay.
And there's no sidewalk either. So I don't think it would impede anybody or any of their butters there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Any other questions on the board?
Yeah. Thank you for coming in. For this project, how much time do you think it will take to do this? How long to move all of these poles?
Well, to do our portion of the work, I could see this being done within about 5 days. But there's other utilities on the pole, so they would
Sure.
have similar time, perhaps even less time, because we're doing the heavy work for them. So I'll say about a week for us, and then I'm not sure how much time I can say for the others, but slightly less time for each other utility.
Okay, as soon as you place the poles first, and then the wires all get moved as you
Correct.
coordinate with the other, okay.
Exactly.
And then there's a school right here. And so I'm curious how much noise and disruption, and will you be doing work when they're having buses and parents dropping off and so forth?
Typically, we start at work 7 to 3, but by the time we reach the site, it's already 8:30 to 9 o'clock, and we leave about 1:30 to 2 o'clock, depending on things. And the biggest noise there are the diesel engines, which at idle isn't too loud.
Sure.
But other than that, there's really no heavy machinery work or blasting or anything of that
Yeah,
nature.
yeah, okay. All right, thank you. Yeah, if you can be mindful of our school hours, I think that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well,
Do we have any other questions on the board? I just have one myself. So my guess is this is part of this project, so I'm guessing that the reason that they're having you move the poles is because of the sidewalk installation that's going along here. Are they having you move it to the back, so this way when they're installing the sidewalks as part of that project, that's why the poles have to be relocated?
yeah, typically they're relocated for either an expansion of the roadway or adding sidewalks. I wasn't the direct designer, so I really can't answer to that, but that's typically what we do. We move the poles typically away from the roadway to allow larger roads or an addition of a sidewalk there. So I don't have the Mass DOT plans, but
Well,
A
I
combination
think
of
everybody
that.
on this board is very familiar with it,
Yeah.
because it's one of the, I think it's one of the 60th most dangerous intersections in the
Yeah.
Commonwealth. And so that's why they're designing it, that's why they're having you move the poles, and they're widening, they're doing some realignment to make it safer, they're putting a fully activated signal in there, and they're gonna put sidewalks along this area. So this is a good thing for you to relocate, to put these poles along here. It just, I've dealt with pole relocations, I know it takes some time, that usually is what usually stalls construction projects, so do you know what time you would be going in there to begin this project?
The date?
the start date, I don't have the start date for this. In my experience, Mass DOT projects, they can take up to a few years depending on how large the scope is, but I don't want to speculate and give you the wrong answer, but I can get back to you on that if you don't.
No, it's usually, the pole location usually begins prior to them doing their work out there, so that's why.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We will do the work before, but
Yeah.
I don't know how we will coordinate with Mass DOT directly, schedule-wise.
Okay.
But I can get back to you with that if I reach out to the Mass DOT themselves.
I think we'll get the answer anyway, but thank you. All right, is there any other questions from anybody on the board? Do I have a motion? Do we have any residents that would like to speak on this matter? You would? Yep, come right up. You can sit right next to him in the chair right there. There's 2 microphones there. So friendly, please.
Hi, my name is Jack Sheehy. I'm one of the abutters to this project. One of the poles will be moving into my yard. And I have one concern and one question. My concern has to do with getting the details right. On the map that was sent out by National Grid that came from you folks to us, Salem Road is identified as South Street. And one of the areas right by my house and along that way basically from South Street to the Wilmington line is showing as South Street, and it's Salem Road. The other is that on the letter that came with that, Salem Road is identified as Salem Street, and the same thing on tonight's agenda. So I tend to, with such a big project and all the various things that are going to go on over the next few years, literally in my yard, about 10 feet from my bedroom window, little details like that tend to compound, and other mistakes get made off of that, and I'm concerned that things like that slip by and don't get noticed. So I'd like to see, these get cleared up and not have that issue. My question has to do with what happens when this entire project is done. Are these poles going to stay where they're being moved to now, or are they going to be relocated back to the sidewalk where they are at this time? The easements that were taken of our property to do this project are all listed as temporary. If this pole moved into my yard and left there permanently, then that would be a permanent taking of some, a small amount, but some of my property. So I'm curious if this is going to be restored afterwards, because there's nothing that I've been able to find that says so.
No, this will be a permanent installation for these pole these pole relocations are going to a new permanent location, and everything that's there now on these poles will be moved to those existing poles. So this is the permanent plan for this project.
Okay, so that suggests to me that some of my yard is going to be taken permanently, and that was not in any of the hearing that I've been to or any of the documents I have. Everything says temporary. The compensation we got was for temporary easement, so that's of a concern to me that some of my yard's going to be taken, and that will apply, I assume, to the other folks along the same area.
Which lot is this, yours here?
Pole 9.
Pole 9, okay.
Oh,
so
it's
that's one.
really,
Oh, 8.
Pole 8.
Okay.
So right now, that's right at my fence. If it gets moved in 5 feet, which is what it says, then it will be 5 feet into my yard, and some of my yard is being taken away permanently. And that has not been addressed by the town or you folks that I'm aware of. I may have missed something, but I don't think so.
I mean, and the plans show that it's not in your property, but you're saying that will be located in your property?
The pole is about this far from my property line now, and from what I'm being told, it's moving about 5 feet in.
Yes.
5.5 feet in, so that will put it several feet inside of my property. So, and all of them are moving 5, 6 feet in, and most of them are right within a foot or so of most of us have fences along there, and the poles are right almost up to the fence. And in fact, the anchor for this pole is already inside my property, so that's obviously going to still be there later, but the pole is not. The anchor is going to move 5.5 feet closer to my house, so it's going to be, this far from my foundation instead of 5 or 6 feet away. And then these are concerns if this is a permanent thing. My understanding is that that has to be addressed as a permanent taking, different than a temporary one. Am I on the right track here, or am I mistaken with this?
Yeah, I'd have to double check with the lot lines, but that would be probably true.
Okay.
So we'll have to check it, and we'd wait on making any decisions tonight until we verify the information.
I just have a question for you. So where do you have a survey of your property that shows that, like, exactly that's where your property line ends of, where the pole is, or have you had something done on that? Because usually from the edge of the right-of-way,
Sure.
there is some, a lot of people believe that that's their property.
Right, I understand that.
But it's really, there is a certain setback from where the roadway, where it
Right.
either belongs to the state or the
It's
town.
from the roadway, right, not from the sidewalk?
What's that?
The setback is from the roadway, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
So the sidewalk's at least several feet wide, and the setback, if I'm not mistaken, and I don't know a lot about this, so if I'm wrong, feel free, but I believe it's 5 feet, so that would mean it's about 3 feet inside of my fence would be the end of the setback, and this pole will be beyond that, according to what's written here. So it would be into my property, and so that's not a temporary easement, that would be a permanent one, and I haven't been offered any information on a permanent easement on my property, so.
And we'd have to get to more information, but usually when this work is done, when they go out and do the design, the first people that go out there is the right-of-way office, and they go out and they do surveys of all the land, and they will find out what the location is, and so they don't usually design something to go on to private property.
Right.
So when they put these poles on, they design something to be going in the public right-of-way. So the fact that maybe they missed something, we'd have to find that out. But my guess is that if the survey hasn't sent something to you saying that they have to take an easement, a permanent easement, I'm guessing that this may be, I'm not sure what the setback is, or maybe a little bit further than what we're expecting, but we can find that answer before we make any decisions.
Yeah, that's what I'm here, I could be completely wrong on this, I don't know. This is, into gray area that I don't know much about. That's why I wanted to come and ask you folks and see before, this gets done. And the answer is, geez, we missed that one, sorry. Nobody wants to get into that. So.
Mr. Vice Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to table this, given his concerns. And do we have time to do that? Yes?
Yeah, and put it on,
I'll
this is on the
second
agenda
it.
for the next
Can I-
meeting.
Yeah.
I'll second that motion.
absolutely.
Could I speak as an abutter as well?
I think technically you have to speak from the other microphone.
You can't.
So, all right, so I got a motion and a second to table it to our next meeting, which is, what's our next meeting scheduled for?
I think the 24th?
24th?
24th? So I got a motion, a second to,
Mr. Vice Chair, you do have an abutter that wants to speak. I don't know, Mr. Kelly, do you want to speak?
I'm comfortable if you're going to table it.
Okay.
That's-
So the motion is
If
second.
you have something to say.
okay, so I got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say an aye.
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 Chair votes aye as well. So we'll table it, we'll get you the answers, and we'll have it come back for our next meeting, and we'll get you the answers to that.
Thank you, I appreciate
No
that.
problem.
Thank you,
Thank you
Mr.
for
Sheehy.
telling
Nice to
us.
see you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kratman. I'm going to put my selectman hat back on. So it's, we're going to go to the next scheduled item for 7:25. It's another poll petition for the intersection of Charmy Road and Shawshene Street. Do I have a representative? Oh, okay, yeah. So what we're going to do is, we're going to have the representative that's going to do the work speak. We're going to open up to the board, and I'll open up directly to abutters. Thank you. Do I have a motion to waive the public hearing?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Kratman, all those in favor?
Aye.
Proceed.
My name is Paulo Sattler. I'm an engineer for National Grid. There is an existing tree guy that National Grid and Verizon use to support a pole line that goes on Shawshene Street and Charm Road. So if we need to remove that tree guy, we need to put a pole that support to support the pole line that goes down Charm Road, or else that pole would eventually bend and possibly break, snap. So we need to add a pole and anchor to replace the existing tree guy with a pole guy. Does that make sense?
I'm going to open up the board for questions.
What happens to the old pole?
The old pole? No. Well, we're adding one pole. We're not removing any poles there currently. The tree that supports it, that, I'm not sure. The tree that I saw today didn't look dead or anything like that, so I'm not sure what the plans are for that tree. But we're adding one pole and not removing or relocating any other poles.
And this is at the request of the customer?
Typically, they come from the request of the customer. I was given this last
That's
evening,
fine.
so I don't want to speculate, but typically it does come from the customer because the tree is on private property.
I have no other
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, I have a question. So is this a safety issue that it's being changed? I'm
I wouldn't say-
confused on, and I guess my other question is, when you say a tree, what is it? Is there a wire in a tree?
Yeah.
Can you explain that to me? I'm just an
I'm not
insurance
sure in the
guy.
years, but up to a certain year, let's say the 90s, a lot of the utility at the time, Mass Electric, would wrap a wire around the tree, a strong tree, to support our poles. Because we have a line on Shrum Road that's pulling the pole towards that road. So we need to support it, kind of equal the forces, and that was their solution many years ago. And that's just not the solution we have today, which is adding another pole and anchor to support it. So we use our own equipment, we don't use piggyback off anybody else.
Okay. So I guess I'm concerned about who requested it. It sounds like a safety issue, which is good. So someone pointed that out. And if
It could be definitely a safety issue. If we don't guide, it's definitely a safety issue for sure, because we never know with ice storms and everything else that comes along our
Yep.
ways. I mean, it can easily bring down a pole, so that's just one of the things we do to mitigate that.
So one more time, not to beat it up, but the pole, I see this diagram and I see a circle with a line through it. What's that signify?
The circle with the lines through it means it's an existing joint-owned pole, so,
That's what you're replacing?
no, that pole is there, that's the one we need to support.
Okay.
And the one with the half-filled circle right above it, that's the one that we're installing across
Okay.
the street.
And that's the anchor
And that would be.
going
the-
towards,
So the tree, where was the tree?
that's all I have.
I don't know exactly which property the tree is on, or a mix of both properties, but it's 70-51 and 70-52.
70-5.
There's a-
We'll proceed, we'll get there, we'll get there.
Okay. So the tree is at that location.
It's between the two properties?
I couldn't tell, it could be either or, but it's in that general vicinity. It's hard to tell the property lines in the field, so.
Any questions from the board? Okay, Mr. Dick summarized it. Sometimes we're kind of like, I like to see like the bottom line. This one was confusing, and typically, what we do is we get these well in advance, and I know, because we've done so many of these, that we all drive the property, take pictures. Typically, we'll even ring the neighbors' doorbells, the abutters' doorbells, because we get a list of the abutters. In this case, I haven't done it, but it was very confusing. This one was confusing, so my only ask, I guess, the next time before we open up to the abutters, if you can anticipate these type of questions, why are we doing it, when are we doing it, how long is it going to take? Almost do a little more homework, because this one was confusing. It didn't have a lot of information besides saying we have an existing pole, we're going to put another one up. So it was a little bit confusing. And for this one, I'll admit I haven't driven past it, so I'm glad potentially to see abutters here. So with that being said, what I'd like to do at this time is open it up. Are there any, like I said, I think there was 1, 2, 3, 6 abutters. So at this time, we're going to pause. We're going to open up to the abutters for questions, comments, or concerns. So are there any abutters that would like to speak? Okay, and just please come and state your name and house number for the record.
My name's Steve Simus. My address is 318 Shawshene Street, where they want to put this pole on the front of my lawn. First of all, I get a couple issues. Second of all, I don't appreciate them marking off the street and putting 2 stakes where they want to put this without even getting this. I got this a week ago. And this is piss poor verbiage here, part of my language.
You said it differently, but that's fine.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
I'm upset about this.
Okay.
And that tree is about 5.5 feet, 6 feet round. And it's not a safety issue. If there's any issue at all, you might have to trim 1 branch, 1 or 2 branches to keep any of the higher branches from falling on it. This is just completely ridiculous. And it's gonna deface my property, and that anchor they wanna put in is gonna go in the front of my house, where I also have my company and everybody else parked there, when there's absolutely no need for it. There's nothing wrong with that pole. That tree's been there. That tree's going to be solid as a rock for another 100 years. Couple branches might have to be trimmed where it might be overhanging if they're worried about it, but that tree isn't going anywhere. That's going to outlive all of us here. So I think this is completely nonsense.
Okay.
All right, and I'm totally disgusted on how they went about this and actually put stakes on my front lawn. I have my property with my fence there. I brought my property line back for a reason, not to come home one day to see 2 stakes parked out there with no explanation, no nothing, and then I get this.
Then you can see the questions from the board, so very good.
Yeah.
Thank you
And
very,
so I'm
Okay.
definitely in, there's no reason for it.
very good. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please, and just name and number for the record, please.
My name is Elaine Kent,
Well, just for the microphone, that's all. For the residents at home.
and I live with him. But also, the water department was at my house once again today because the water main broke once again today, right in front of my driveway. So when I was speaking with them today, they were like, there is no way they're gonna be able to put a pole there anyway, because this is the second time in maybe, I don't know, 6 months that the water main has broke, and the water department has been out there, and they haven't really fixed anything. They didn't fix the driveway. And then on top of that, National Grid Gas, there is a leak at our house that they've neglected to
Okay, just,
address.
okay, 2 seconds. Mr. Montori, do we know if this is independent or dependent on the business in front of us today as far as the new pole?
I'd have to ask. I'd have to find out.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, well, the water department left my house at like 5:30, 5:45 today.
Yeah.
And they were like, wow. I said, we have to go to a meeting tonight because National Grid Electric wants to put a pole right there. And they're like, ugh.
Okay,
Yeah, I'd have to find that out.
okay. Thank you very much. Anything else? Thank you very much.
Yeah, I don't want the pole there.
Very, thank you. Any other butters? And just name a number for the record, please.
Yeah, my name is Jim Barbosa. I'm owner of the house on 314 Shashin Street. And I'm trying to take off the trees. There's like this tall trees in the front of my house. My wife no feel safe for the house, for our family. And I know ask for move the pool in the front of my neighbor. You can put the pool next to the tree over there. I don't care for the guideline. I see the guideline at the tree, and I need to remove the tree. And I don't know why I need to move inside my neighbor fence in the middle, in front of his house. Why you don't put the pool next to the tree over there and take the tree out? I gotta take the tree out. That's it.
Okay, and just to be clear, you're against this, correct? Oh, you're for it?
Yeah, I'm the owner of the house at 314.
I see that, okay. Okay, so are you for or against it, just so I'm clear?
I'm for move the trees, and he can put the pole in front of the house for hold the guideline over there.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, I think he's given kind of an option.
Like I don't know why move. The guideline is just in front of my house in the pine tree. He can put the pole next to the tree over there. That's why move like a 20 foot or 30 foot the side in front of his house, you know what I mean?
So the bottom line is you're suggesting an alternative option as
Option for,
Okay,
I need to remove the trees.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's like we don't feel safe with the trees. I know the big tree, but it's a pine tree. Pine trees is no deep enough, it's strong wind or whatever. The tree gotta go straight to my house, and
Okay,
it's a big thing.
okay. Very good. Is anything else to add?
That's it.
Thank you very much. Okay.
You're welcome.
Any other abutters? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion, I have a second. Second by Ms. Stronach, all those in favor?
Aye.
What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, could I ask the professional on that option, is that doable? Is that something that you guys would consider, taking out a tree and moving the pole to that area? Or is that something you guys would
We can
do?
consider it. I would have to take I'm not the original designer, but I've done similar work.
But you could take that back as an option to maybe.
Yeah, it could be an option. It really depends on the angle.
The angle
That's the
and
biggest
the
thing.
lines. Gotcha.
If you,
Gotcha.
and another thing is the pole.
Wait, time out. Sir, time out. We're done with the deliberations, so if you don't know, just please work with the board. We just have to keep it professional, that's all.
I understand.
Thank you.
So it's something that you don't know. I was just wondering if that was, if you've done that before, if that's an option. So I don't want to open up.
It doesn't need to be
can of worms
a perfect design. It just needs to work well so that we
There's
support our
some-
infrastructure.
yeah, so this
and
angle.
And I did see the pole in front of the home, really.
Gotcha.
But that was how the original designer intended it to be done. So that's what I'm here to support for now.
Ms. Stronach?
I would like to make a motion to table this as well, to give National Grid some time to go back and reassess the placement of the new pole so that the tree may potentially be removed and if there's an option to put the pole somewhere else. Because I think what we have here is resident in number 314 wanting to take down the tree, and National Grid suggesting that the pole be placed on 318. That's what I believe is going on here. So I'd like to make a motion to table.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second for discussion.
Yeah. I support that fully, and I would be interested if the board is interested to add to the motion some sort of assessment from our own tree warden about the quality of that tree. Since it seems like a tree dispute. that's
So
involved National Grid.
for my motion, I would not like to do that because it is on the owner's property, and I don't think that
It's not a
it is
town
up
tree.
to us to decide whether or not we take down the tree. I don't think it's
That's
on our property, so I don't,
Are we sure that was the question I was going to ask when,
wouldn't be able to take down a town tree.
is the tree definitely on private property? Would you know that when you were out there?
It was pretty far into the property, yes.
Okay, then that's the
Yeah,
answer
there
that
we
we
go.
needed,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, I'm not going to go in solution
you.
mode, we have the matter in front of us, so I'd rather not go in solution mode at this point. So I have a motion, I have a second for discussion. I also, any other discussion? Okay, I like to just add a few comments here. So we get these all the time as far as the board, that's roles and responsibilities to approve petitions. And oftentimes, I would say 99.9%, we send it out to abutters, and we have no abutters that come in. Tonight was a perfect case example where we have two very independent poll petitions, where we had abutters come in, they get notified, and they actually say, hey, wait a minute, you know what I mean? Because let's be honest, folks make mistakes, and the abutters know best, they live there, they're residents. So tonight was a classic example of having abutters saying, wait a minute, we have questions about A, B, and C, and that's commendable that the abutters came in and said, wait, time out. You guys know best, you live there, so thank you very much. It's commendable to come in and ask the right questions as residents. That's what you deserve, and you did a very good job. So, so again, nothing against you or the company, but this is how it's supposed to work. So I'm in full-fledged support of tabling the item. So I have a motion, I have a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we table it to next meeting? We didn't do-
Exactly. Yep, we're going to basically table the process, and Mr. Montori,
I
if
have
you want...
everyone's contact information, and I'll look into it.
And can we just make it, can we actually do all, like I said, there was 5 abutters. Can we make sure that they understand the process, we table it? So basically what we want to do is kind of revisit it, look for all options, and work directly with the abutters. So the next time we come in, it's pretty much either a yes or no and no deliberation. That's how it should work. Fair enough? Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Night.
All right, very good. All right, we're going to move to the resident section. Any residents? Seeing none, what we're going to do is move to new business. So the first order of new business is street name approval request for Naomi Way. So Mr. Montori, keep me honest here, but during our last annual town meeting, there was, in front of the town meeting, we had a particular article which basically got approved by the residents to enable the Board of Selectmen, that's us, to approve private street names in order to go to town meeting or annual town meeting. So we have one of those very scenarios in front of us where we have a street name, Naomi Way, that was, that we have received, basically, let me just want to read this very quickly for the residents. On October 5th, 2019, the planning board approved the special permit. Mr. Sullivan, thank you very much. I'll continue on August 5th, 2019, the planning board approved a special permit and subdivision to allow for 2.6 acres of lot to be split into 2 lots and creating a private way. Since that time, developers have formally submitted to the board the name of the private way to be named Naomi Way. We, the board, have received sign-offs from the fire chief, the chief assessor, head dispatcher, and town engineer. We all agree that Naomi Way is an acceptable name for this private way. Fast forward to tonight, now it's in front of us to ask questions and to approve this request. Mr. Montori, did I get that right?
You got that right.
Okay, first, questions from the board. Mr. Kratman?
I have no questions.
Okay, I thought you did. Any other questions from the board? All right, seeing none, what is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to accept this parcel, the street name of Naomi Way, as recommended by the Assistant Town Manager, Steve Sadwick.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Brian Dick. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. All right, next order of business, new business. This is the Tax Aid Committee Mission Statement. So for this one here, Mr. Montori, I'm going to give a quick highlight. So as a committee, over the last 2 years or so, what we've been doing is we're trying to formulate any and all ideas, brainstorm ways we can essentially help seniors and residents through any and all sorts of tax relief. So this was an option that we uncovered because we previously done that in the town that actually goes way, way, way back when. So we kind of dusted off this committee, if you would, and here we are. So with that being said, Mr. Montori, could you please kind of explain a little bit about the history of what the Tax Aid Committee is all about, and then we'll talk about kind of next steps.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In October of 2002, the town accepted Mass General Laws, Chapter 60, Section 3D, and it allowed for tax relief for seniors and disabled residents. The statute allowed not only for a fund to be set up that would generate funding through donations from residents by asking people on their tax bill, their water bill, their motor vehicle tax bill to donate to this fund. That's how it would generate the money. It also set up a committee to oversee the fund and review applications and eligibility from seniors who request assistance from the fund. In 2002, when this was set up, the town did start seeking donations or pledges to the fund. In around 2015-16, the town stopped doing it because there wasn't any money being generated through donations from residents. So the last time this was active was around 2015. And then over the last year, when we're reviewing this, the options to provide senior tax relief, we thought it'd be a good idea to resurrect this committee and this fund and start asking residents if they're interested in donating to the fund through either tax bills or water bills or motor vehicle excise tax billing mailings come January of 2020. So I pulled out the old guidelines that the town had. We updated them to reflect what's to 2019. The chief assessor added some language in there regarding income eligibility and updating those areas. We updated the application for residents to fill out. And it's here for the board tonight to adopt as updated regulations to move forward for the new committee to utilize. And then that's really how we got here.
Okay, very good. And I'm going to open up the board, but just a quick question. Do you know what, I think I had a sneak peek. Do you know how many revenues or dollars are actually sitting in the fund right now?
A little over $9,000, I believe.
Okay. And just to kind of go through the call flow or the flow of this, if we do approve it. So right now, currently, once we get our tax bills, nobody likes tax bills. So essentially what we're going to do if this does get approved is essentially kind of like have a checkbox, if you would, saying, hey, if you like to volunteer $1 or whatever amount.
There'd be a minimum and that they can, it's a minimum of $1 and they can go higher than that if they'd like.
Okay. So it's $9K, and then it's currently not on our tax bills, but it would be if we approve it.
Yeah, it'll either be on the bill or be a separate insert.
Okay. Sorry to jump ahead. Additional questions from the board?
I had one. I think I spoke with the town manager today. It looks like there's a change in there. In the mission, the application, it's in red, right? So we've all seen it. And, just being in the field that I'm in, when it says income shall include all assets and income, such as pensions, annuities, CDs, IRA, stocks. I think there's also other assets that can play a role into allowing an individual to be qualified or not qualified for this fund. I don't think that's going to go on, but there are some different assets like a cash value life insurance policy, not to get too in-depth. So I think that statement should be a little bit more generic, not to just say pensions, annuities, CDs, IRAs, stocks, and bonds, and interest from all accounts. I like something like income shall include all assets and income, but not limited to investments such as pensions, annuities, CDs, IRAs, stocks, and bonds, things like that. That's what I would add to that. That's just a suggestion to make sure there's no funny business applying for this. There's no hidden assets.
Okay. So once we take a vote, Mr. Montori, would it be acceptable if we do take a vote to take Mr. Brian Dick's verbiage into consideration, almost like make it an amendment, if you would? 'Cause it seems like Mr. Brian Dick, he's the expert. It seems like this is his field of business.
I would say I'm an expert, I just...
Oh, you're pretty good, Mr.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
agree.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's the only thing I had to add, and I think this is great. Thanks.
Any additional questions from the board?
I would just like to thank everybody for their work on this. I mean, we've been talking about all kinds of relief for seniors, so I'm excited about having this new committee come online to explore options
Okay.
and getting the outreach. That's my concern, is how we're going to, and I'm sure that's going to be one of the tasks of the committee.
Perfect. Yeah, I was going to get into that. Actually, I kind of slipped. We already approved the form, we already approved this committee, so then the order of operation was we sent out for applicants. So the committee's already approved, and you're absolutely right. Once we meet, the committee would formulate an organization, if you would, but that's going to be the key thing, is how we get that out there, to the seniors and to every resident of Tewksbury as far as advertising, what to do, how to do, and all the what's hows about this new committee. So that will absolutely be on the committee's agenda, if you would. So good call out. Ms. Miller?
My question's been answered.
Okay, so if there's no other questions, I think I had one more question. All right, well, actually, I don't have a question. I'm just going to continue with my thought process. So again, we already voted for the committee. So what we did is we opened up for residents for applications. We got a number of applications. So now the order of business, if we're ready, is to, number one, vote. I think we have a couple votes here. Number one is the vote on the amended Tewksbury Taxation and Committee General Guidelines and Application Form. Seems like Mr. Dick wanted to approve it with edits. So that's, I think, the first order of business.
So, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Tewksbury Taxation Aid Committee Elderly and Disabled Fund Guidelines and Application as amended.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so the next order of business for this board is to essentially nominate or make appointments. Now, I will say, Mr. Montori, can you just go over, just for the residents, what's the construction? What will be the construction of the Tax Aid Committee as it stands today via the bylaw, via the charter?
Yes, and just if I can just have one, before you make appointments, just one thing, one vote before that.
Please.
To adopt the mission statement for the committee. And I can go over that structure. So what the board has in front of them tonight is the Tewksbury Taxation Aid Committee Elderly and Disabled Fund. This is the committee that's authorized by statute, and the selectmen are to appoint 3 residents to that committee. The committee also has on it the chair of the Board of Assessors, as well as the treasurer, the town treasurer. So that makes the committee 5 members. The mission statement outlines the number of members, their term being 1 year, the structure being a chair, vice chair, clerk, as determined by the committee, that they'll follow the open meeting law, and that it outlines their description of the committee and their tasks, which were touched upon a little bit earlier, to determine what type of voluntary checkoff there would be for pledges and donations, develop the outreach plan to residents regarding the program, and to encourage donations, develop an outreach plan to seniors to create awareness about the program, to review applications that are submitted by seniors or residents who are disabled, those type of tasks. So before you make the appointments, if you could adopt the mission statement that provides the committee with its direction.
All right, perfect. We already did the tax aid. Okay, we voted for the tax aid committee regulations, so now what we're looking for is the tax aid committee mission statement approval.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the mission statement of the Tewksbury tax aid.
Is there a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. All right, that brings us to the tax aid committee appointments. Are we prepared to make any appointments tonight?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to actually make a motion. I'm familiar with your fight, your agenda on this subject. Over the last 3 years, you've been working hard to try to alleviate some of the taxation relief for our elderly and disabled. So I would like to nominate you as the first resident to sit on that committee, as a resident.
I'll second that.
Well, I'll just say I would be on it, but I had credit where credit's due. I know the board, for over the last number of years, has tried to work this, as this is only one small step, in that fight, so I would be on it. So I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you very much. Do I have any other, so now we need 2 additional residents. Do I have any, any
I'd like
additional?
to make a motion to appoint Mr. Bruce Schick to the committee.
I have a motion to appoint Mr. Bruce Schick.
Second?
I have a motion, a second from Mr. Dick. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, do I have any further motions? Now we have 1 additional resident to appoint.
I'll make a second motion to appoint Ms. Karen Theodoris to the committee.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion, a second from Ms. Karen Theodoris. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you guys very much. Oh, Ms. Stronach?
Can I just say, I would also like to thank Christian once again, stepping up to the plate. We did have 3 applicants, so I just want to thank people for their interest in these committees.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you very much for that order of business. All right, and that brings us, Mr. Montori, to special permit regulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Assistant Town Manager developed special permit regulations or rules for the board to adopt and follow when they are the special permit granting authority, whether that's through a state statute or a town bylaw. The rules that were developed by the Assistant Town Manager were kept very general, and they were consistent with what is allowed by state statute. The rules were reviewed by senior town council, and some changes were made and incorporated in what the board has been provided. And this specifically came out of the zoning bylaw that was adopted for billboards, which within that zoning bylaw called for the Board of Selectmen to be the special permit granting authority for billboards. But when this was drafted by the Assistant Town Manager and we discussed it, we kept it general and did not make it specific for billboards, because in the future, whether it's through zoning bylaw changes or amendments or general bylaws or state statute, the board could be the special permit granting authority for other reasons. And this just caught everything in one set of rules and regulations. So the billboard zoning amendment or zoning bylaw prompted this, but again, it was drafted in a general way and consistent with other rules for special permit granting authorities, so it was flexible in the future. We wanted to get this in place in case any applications are received for a billboard. We wanted to be ready for that. We don't know if any will be coming in the near future, but we wanted this in place just in case. But the board has had it, and it's up, and if the board's ready to decide tonight, or you want to put it off for another meeting or 2, it's up to the board, whatever the board wishes to do.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. I'm going to open up to the board of questions.
I have a question. So when this was developed, I know Steve's been working very hard on this. Was this sort of examples of what other city and towns are doing around their communities?
It's what other cities and towns are doing in general for special permit granting authorities, as well as what we've done in town.
You good?
Yeah, there was just a lot in this that, the way it's worded, to absorb all. I'm just trying to figure out if there's something that we're missing, that just to go through it all. I mean,
Sure. No, that's what I'm
we've
saying.
had
Take your
we've had
time on it.
For a while, but it's just, there's a lot to go through. And my preference would be to take a look at, review other cities and towns and what they've done to see if we're missing something that I wouldn't want to approve something and then find out, we have to amend something to put in that, may cost the town, some sort of thing, so whatever. it may
We can
be.
provide the board with other examples.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Ms. Stronach?
I had a similar thought process in a little bit different way, and if I recall, there's been some different of opinions on whether or not the Board of Selectmen should even be doing this type of work. I just want everyone to know that the reason, in my humble opinion, I could be wrong and you can correct me, Mr. Montori, the reason that the zoning bylaws address this with the billboard is because we need to negotiate a host agreement, and that's what makes this different than other articles in the zoning bylaw. So as the way this reads right now, under the Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 9, and then with regards to the zoning bylaw, the Tewksbury zoning bylaw is only addressed the billboards today, but in the future it could. But for me, what I want to spend a little bit more time doing homework on, and I think this is great to get this out to the public and kind of let people be aware, but I want to kind of look at what our other responsibilities are with the review of Chapter 40, Section 9, before I agree to take on additional responsibilities. I want to know what I'm signing up for. So that's my concern, but similar to Mark, I really appreciate all the work that's been done in this, because I do think we need to be prepared in the event. This billboards, I feel like it's been kicking around for, I don't know, about a year and a half now. And I do think that we need to put some closure on that, but for me, I want to table it because I also feel I need to do more homework.
Sure.
Any comments from the board?
I think the concerns from my colleagues, I would have to move forward with tabling as well with their concerns. Me personally, I feel comfortable with this, and I feel that our assistant town manager did his homework, and I have read through it, and it does sound like the town manager will be able to forward some examples, so I'm sure that will probably show us that we're right on board with where we're at, but I do like the slow play, and so I would agree with tabling that.
I could not agree more. So with that being said, what's the pleasure of the board? Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Miller? Questions, comments?
Just one.
Okay.
Thank you. I would concur with my colleagues on all of your statements, and I do agree that Mr. Sadwick's done an excellent job pulling this together. Part of my confusion, not confusion, but as I read through this, I think that there needs to be some clear lines between where the Board of Selectmen is a special permit granting authority and where the ZBA and where the planning board is, just in the beginning, maybe in the narrative portion of the document, just to have that set out just for clarity purpose, so that down the road there isn't that confusion. So, and I think we're all in agreement on that. And then there's a fee schedule, and I don't know where the fee schedule would be voted separately in here, and perhaps if this may also apply to small cell applications. So those are the interest I'm interested in.
Yep, spot on, and my thought, we'll come to a, we can vote momentarily, but everyone's spot on. So my suggestion would be to maybe work with Mr. Steve Sowick, have a working session as the board, to address any of our questions or concerns, and let Mr. Sowick do some homework and polish the special permit regulations, and then come back into the board for a later date. That's all.
Yeah, like a working session.
Okay.
Can I just add, I think that the fee structure is going to be separate aside from this because it'll dependent on whatever it is. I think that that's why it wasn't in here. Is that correct, Mr. Montori?
Yeah, most likely, but I'll double check with Steve.
So at the same time, if there is, have they thought about what that fee structure, to Jane's point, and to Mr. Dick's point of view in terms of the slow play, I would like to say that we're going to table this until the next meeting rather than putting it off to indefinitely. So I would like to make a motion to table this to the next meeting, which is September 24th.
Okay. That's fair. I just know there's a lot of meat and potatoes in here, so I'm not too sure if we can.
I'd second that.
Okay. Motion. So I have a motion and a second? I'll just say discussion. There's a lot of meat and potatoes in the special permit regulation, so hopefully we can get there in 2 weeks, but we'll just revisit it in 2 weeks. So if we're there, great. If not, we'll just have that discussion at that time. So I have a motion to table this for 2 weeks to work with Mr. Sadwick. Is all those in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, that brings us to the town manager section. And Mr. Montori, I think we covered the senior town council and the town council. Any additional business?
The only thing I wanted to mention, the Finance Committee met last week, and they reorganized for the upcoming fiscal year. Rob Kozmersky is the new chair, Dave Asnavorian is the vice chair, and Donna Higgins is the clerk. As you know, Scott Wilson was appointed to the elected to the school committee by the joint meeting of the Board of Selectmen and the school committee. He has resigned from the Finance Committee, and last week we began advertising for that vacancy, and applications are due this Friday.
Perfect. Okay, I was going to mention that. Thank you very much for the update. Perfect. Okay, that's going to bring us to next order of business is minutes. So we have some minutes. We have April 23rd, 2019, and we have May 21, 2019. I'm going to pass it to the clerk.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of April 23rd, 2019.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
I'm going
Mr.
to abstain just because I was missing for that.
Okay, very good.
Abstain.
Sorry, I have 4. Okay, Melissa has it. She's always on top of that. Okay, very good.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of May 21st, 2019.
Second for discussion.
Please.
I also am going to abstain because I was not present at this meeting, so.
This is the May 21?
Yep.
Okay, very good.
So second.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. 4-0-1. Okay, Melissa's always on top of it, okay. Anything else, Ms. Miller?
No.
Okay, very good. All right, that brings us to board member reports. Hello, Mr. Mark Kratman.
Simple tonight. My boards aren't meeting to the end of the month. I really don't have anything to report on the board reports, but I would like to make just a public announcement that the 9/11 committee tomorrow night has moved their schedule of the ceremony from 7 o'clock to 6 p.m. just out of just worries of the community with the Triple E going on. They decided to move it ahead an hour. The town is in a moderate risk, as most towns are in the community, but out of an abundance of care and safety, they decided to move it in an hour. The town is spraying that field tonight, so it'll be sprayed for the tomorrow. So I do urge residents to come down and join the ceremony. It's always a great thing that we do in the town. Very proud of the 9/11 ceremony we have, and that's all I have tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Kratman. How about Ms. Jane Miller?
Thank you very much. Not much has gone on in the last couple of weeks as we're finishing up the summer. School is open. It's great to see the buses and the kids, and I'm particularly happy to have my child back in school, thank you, and one off to college. I wanted to note that the Beautification Committee is meeting next Monday, the 16th, and our Fall Cleanup Day, halfway to Earth Day, is scheduled for October 5th. So there's a sign-up genius that's going around. It's a great opportunity to come down, bring sports teams down, bring all your kids, put them to work, and companies and businesses can come out and participate as well. So, thank you.
Awesome, thank you very much. How about Ms. Stronach?
Throwing us a curveball by going out of line.
I'm good at
Fall
that.
Festival is September 29th. I know that we mentioned it. We're really excited this year. We're doing things in a different way. We have a lot more vendors and a lot more games for the kids, as well as rides, so we're really looking forward to that event. And the committee has been working really hard to make that a successful thing, so praying for good weather. Elementary Building Committee is meeting tomorrow at 6 PM. It's our regular meeting. And the abutters will be meeting at 5:15. That is not a posted meeting, but any abutters who want to come and voice concerns, we will take them, and then we will bring those concerns back to the committee as we're able to address those. And the Housing Partnership canceled their meeting in September because we had no projects that we needed to look at this time. So rather than meet to meet, we canceled the meeting. And that's all I have, except I want to thank Mr. Tony Ippolito. We got a resignation for his services on the conservation, and I want to thank him. He has been constant in committees and towns in the town, and I really appreciate all the work he's done and want to thank him publicly for his service.
Excellent, great call out, thank you, Ms. Stronach. How about Mr. Brian Dick?
Yeah, one thing, Mr. Chair, last Tuesday, September 3rd, the Athletics Field Subcommittee met, and we had a nice working session. We had one abutter of the athletic field attend, and we were able to answer her questions or point her in the right direction to get her question answered. And it was a good working session with the subcommittee, and we hope to pass some information along to the Elementary Building Committee at a future date.
Okay, excellent.
Thanks.
Okay, short and sweet, just next week, we're actually going to kick off the Trahan and North Street Reuse Committee, the much anticipated Trahan and North Street Reuse Committee, and I'm seeing Mr. Keith Sullivan in the audience. I'm looking forward to working with him. Keith is on the member, a member of that committee, so definitely excited to get it kicked off with the members, and like I said, this has been this committee has the many eyes on this committee for obvious reasons. It's very important to the residents now that we have an elementary school to put our heads together, have a blank canvas, and see what we may or may not do with the Trahan and the North Street. So I'm looking for a lot of heavy lifting involved there. So looking forward to getting that committee all fired up and started next week. So that's all I had. So what I'm going to do now, before we adjourn, what we're going to do is enter an executive session. So what I like to do is first and foremost take a vote to enter an executive session. Once we agree to enter executive session, what we're going to do is a roll call to start executive session. At that time, what we're going to do is shut the cameras down and ask the audience, Mr. Keith Sullivan, to be removed from the auditorium. And then what we're going to do is, like I said, we're going to shut the cameras off and we're going to adjourn. So this will be the last portion of the meeting before we call it quits. And again, that's just for the residents. So.
And it's for potential litigation.
Oh, yeah, I should, with potential litigation against the town, so that's why we're going into executive session. Thank you, Mr. Montori. Okay, with that being said, do I have a motion to enter executive session?
So moved.
Ms. Miller, I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion, a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, now I'd like to take a roll call to enter executive session. I'm going to start with Mr. Mark Kratman.
Aye.
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 Okay.